too old. He is too old.
Yeah, I'm 30, and I want to talk about Star Wars Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker. So, Caleb, there's been a lot of reviews out on Rise of Skywalker. Obviously, it's kind of the big thing right now. You and I have both been to see it twice. I'd like to go see it one more time. But I kind of wanted to get our take on it out there onto YouTube. So, what's your thoughts on Rise of Skywalker?
Well, you gotta kind of start from the beginning. When you first walk in and you get that Star Wars, the music comes on, you hear some people clapping, you get that feeling that Star Wars is back. We didn't get an anthology film in 2018, so we went 2 years without Star Wars. The Mandalorian held us off for a couple months, but there's nothing like going to the movies, seeing Star Wars. And when that first scroll comes down, it's a pretty interesting start. The scroll is shorter than most movies. That's one thing I noticed, but it was straight to the point. And I think it had a great setup. And then the first scene, we see Kylo Ren on Mustafar.
Mustafar with trees.
Not the Mustafar we're used to, where
Right.
Obi-Wan and Anakin are all over the place on the lava river.
Now, personally, I didn't like that.
No.
I guess it's explained in Vader Immortal, which I have not played. I don't have an Oculus. I'd like to get one, but I guess the reason why Mustafar now has trees is explained in that.
Yep.
Maybe if one of you guys knows, I'd be thrilled to know the reason why. So leave a comment on that if you get it. But yeah, we have starting out on Mustafar, and a really cool action sequence with Kylo Ren, kind of
A little 300 action.
Yeah,
In slow motion.
And what I was happy about was, I think one of the complaints from us fans, I know not everybody agrees, but certainly one of the complaints I've had, and something I've heard from other YouTubers is, Kylo is a really interesting character, but he seems underpowered throughout the trilogy. Rey, who, and of course we get a little bit of an explanation in this film, but throughout the trilogy, she kind of seems to, at the very least, keep pace with Kylo, and sometimes she beats him, which has left some of us fans dissatisfied.
Right.
So right off the bat from this film, we see Kylo just absolutely dominating and doing some real cool things with his lightsaber. So I liked it.
It shows how powerful
scenes.
Kylo Ren really was. Then after that, we get to see Exegol for the first time, and we get introduced to the Return of the Emperor right away. And I really like that. You see Snoke in a sort of cloning tank, and so there's some theories out there. Is Palpatine a clone, or is he cloning Snoke, and is he cloning other things? There's a lot of theories that are out there that the movie didn't really explain, but it leaves a lot to thought. And then once he enters the little room where Palpatine is, he looks like hell.
Yeah.
Palpatine looked bad. And he mentioned, he has a quote in there that says, "I've died before."
Right.
And so, is this a clone of Palpatine? Is this some sort of animation of him? That's another thing that doesn't really get explained. But that first scene with Kylo Ren and Palpatine is really powerful, in my opinion.
Yes. Before Disney bought Star Wars, I was really into the what is now Legend. So a lot of the comics, I read probably most of the novels. So the idea of Palpatine being a clone is not unprecedented. There was a whole storyline with multiple Palpatine clones, and maybe not one of my favorite storylines, but I mean, there's precedence for it. So
there's something there.
I like to think that he was a clone. I buy into those theories, and I hope that that's when Disney or some author commissioned by Disney inevitably explains that backstory. I hope that that's the story they go with. Is he's some sort of clone, maybe some sort of dark force essence transfer or something is how they explain it. Because what I'm afraid of is this kind of just totally cheapens Anakin's whole storyline.
Right.
I mean, clearly the Emperor died at the end of Return of the Jedi, and so if they make it that it's totally the same body, same guy, I think it cheapens. Yeah, I think it cheapens it. Yeah. So, what I hope is they go with kind of the cloning storyline. I thought he looked kind of weird. It was cool. I liked the missing fingers thing,
right?
But he looked kind of weird.
Yeah.
But I thought it was good. One of the complaints I had though at the beginning of the film was, I mean, this was a solid 10 minutes, at least 10 minutes of just exposition.
Right. And I think that's sort of JJ Abrams going back, taking things back from The Last Jedi. Obviously, fans didn't really agree with a lot of the decisions that Rian Johnson made. Me and you both.
Right.
I mean, it's our opinion, but we really didn't like that movie.
I didn't like the choices that were made.
Yeah.
And we don't need to rehash all of it, but what they did to Luke Skywalker's character, I just don't agree with it. But I don't want to totally dog on The Last Jedi. I mean, it was a Star Wars film.
Can't complain with that.
I'm happy with the Star Wars film.
Yeah.
But I think that this film would have been a lot better if it was set up. If this Palpatine storyline was set up more in Force Awakens and
from the very beginning, I think they could have made a great trilogy out of this.
So, what's your thought on it, dude? Do you think that Palpatine was in the picture from the beginning, or?
I don't think so. I don't know if Disney ever came up with a plan. I mean, they had 3 directors from the very beginning. JJ Abrams was brought in kind of late to direct Rise of Skywalker. And I just don't think that Disney really had a plan.
Well, I think that that's been made pretty clear.
Right.
There's multiple sources that have said that every director kind of had quite a bit of freedom on where to take the story. I don't buy into the idea at all that Palpatine was envisioned from the very beginning.
No.
I think he was kind of a fix. I think it was a lot of fan service, which I appreciate.
Right.
Overall, I was happy with the movie. I was happy with Palpatine being in the movie and back in the story, because I think it fixed a lot of the problems that I had with the trilogy.
Right.
But as a pure standalone movie,
it's not great.
I think it made it not a great movie, but
it's a good Star Wars.
It's a good Star Wars movie. It fixes a lot of the problems that I had with it.
Right.
So, Kylo on Exegol, the temple.
Right.
I thought it was awesome.
It was sweet. They made Exegol look really cool.
Yeah.
You got that dark vibe feeling from it from the very beginning. The Emperor's music is playing.
And that was cool.
It gives you, it throws you back to the prequels where the Emperor really shined, and it just throws it back to that. But then after that, we get a little training sequence of Rey, and we finally get to see her training as a Jedi, which is a complaint that we both had from the very beginning, from the sequel trilogy, is how is she so powerful? And so JJ Abrams kind of gives us a little bit of a scene of her training with Master Organa, I guess.
Right.
Which is another complaint that we have is didn't look like Carrie Fisher belonged.
It just didn't work.
Right.
I mean, I appreciate Carrie Fisher being in the film. I appreciate Leia being in the film. I would have been upset as a fan if they had killed Leia off screen or something like that. You know, maybe a year or so ago there were some rumors going around that I had seen about, oh, this film's going to open up with Leia's funeral, and I mean, you know, I had read stuff like that, and as a fan I would have been totally upset with that. So I was glad that Leia was in the film, and I know I'm in the minority here. Personally, I would have been happy, and I know you probably don't agree. I think we've talked about this before. I go back and forth with it. I would have personally been happy with a CGI Carrie Fisher, or, you know, I could have even accepted recasting her. And I know that is sacrilege, but the reason I say that is the footage that they had from her, it just didn't work. Everybody was acting around these few weird lines that she had, and you just knew. Yeah. And it just didn't work.
It was forced. I see why they did it. Carrie Fisher being so important to the Star Wars saga. I see why they kept Carrie Fisher in that role. But yeah, you're right. It just didn't work. As for CGI and all that, I'm such a Carrie Fisher and Princess Leia fan. I don't know if I could do it. I mean, we saw CGI in Rogue One. It didn't look too bad. I mean, it was a little 5-second scene of CGI Princess Leia turning around. So, I mean, you don't get too much of it, so we're not really sure if CGI would work for a whole film.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. It was choppy.
But again, I'm glad that she's in the film. I think it will read a lot better in the novel. Yeah. Seeing it on screen, it just doesn't work. Yeah. But, you know, on the other hand, I am happy to see hints of a story that Leia had some Jedi training.
That was an awesome scene.
You know, presumably she's just as powerful, or had the potential to be just as powerful as her brother Luke Skywalker.
We saw her knock him down in training.
Right, and you know, in the expanded universe, what's now Legends, you know, there was some storylines with Leia training, especially after the Yuzhong Vong War. She went back to her training and eventually became a Jedi Knight. So I was happy to see she had some training, and this film acknowledged her Force potential. So I was happy to see that. I just don't think the acting and using these few and far between extra lines that they had, I just don't think it worked very well.
And then from that, we get a little bit of a scene with Poe Dameron and Finn on the Millennium Falcon. They're trying to sell Finn, Poe, and Rey as Luke, Han, Leia. Right. And it might have worked if they had them in the other two films together, but they don't have much screen time together. They don't have that relationship that Luke, Han, and Leia had in the originals. I like Poe Dameron as a character. I thought he was great in this movie. You know, he had some one-liners that were pretty funny, but
they got back to being mean to C-3PO,
which is awesome.
Yeah.
Plug him into the hyperdrive.
Yeah. Plug the professor into the hyperdrive. Yeah. Poe, I think that I disagree a little bit. I think that his storyline just went absolutely nowhere. Yeah. I mean, he started out in The Force Awakens as a great pilot, which I could accept. That's great. Best pilot in the Resistance. Yeah. And then in The Last Jedi, that's been talked about extensively, the problems there. But all of a sudden he's, I guess, not a respected guy.
A smuggler?
Well, that's what they brought out in this last film. But in in The Last Jedi, all of a sudden he's, you know, just a disrespected guy, I guess, that they can't
just
even
kind of
trust
thrown
him.
down the ranks.
Well, and Holdo can't even trust him with, you know, the secret
Smallest
plan or whatever.
information, yeah.
But, you know, all that's been talked about. But at the end of the last film, they showed some hints of maybe some character growth that, oh, he learned from whatever lesson he was supposed to learn in The Last Jedi. And then in this last film, Rise of Skywalker, I just don't see where his storyline went. It kind of just fell flat.
Yeah.
Now, someone I like, I do like Finn.
Yeah. Okay.
I like him a lot better than Poe Dameron. I think the idea of a stormtrooper turned resistance, I thought it was really interesting.
Possibly even Jedi.
Now, every time he yelled Rey, I about busted out laughing. Rey! Rey! I mean, that was a little overdone.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just an acting choice, I don't know, but that got old.
Star Wars has never been known for dialogue.
Well, that's true. But Finn as a character, I liked him a lot more. But talk more about what you thought about this whole Millennium Falcon opening scene.
I like the idea of there being an insider on the First Order. That was pretty interesting. I mean, them revealing that it was General Hux. I kind of
like that.
I like that because I've always found it funny in this sequel trilogy as General Hux just being completely bullied by Kylo Ren and even people under him. It seems like, and he does have a quote in there though that says he just wants Kylo Ren to lose. So I mean, he wasn't really rooting for the Resistance, but kind of seemed like he wanted Kylo Ren out of the picture, so maybe he moves up the ranks. I don't know. That's just a shot in the dark, but
well, and I like that storyline for a whole different reason. I absolutely hate the character of General Hux. I mean, he's a whiny, sniveling guy, and I just didn't like him. So I like the storyline because it ends with him just kind of getting shot and falling dead.
Yeah.
And I mean, perfect ending for that character. But back to the Millennium Falcon, the hyperspeed or the light speed.
The light
jumping.
speed jumping doesn't make sense.
No, they could have cut all that.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, that whole chase went nowhere.
Somehow the TIE fighters can follow.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, maybe it would have been better if that's something that got introduced earlier. But I mean, it kind of Angry Joe kind of alluded to it in a video that he did where why couldn't they light speed skip when they were trying to escape Hoth?
Well, and you know, as a film making choice, I don't see the point of it.
Right.
Because it doesn't get brought up again.
Mm-hmm.
It does nothing but create plot holes in the other 8 films.
Right.
It just wasn't a necessary thing, I guess. Is it in there to reinforce that Poe's a great pilot? I mean, we already knew that,
Yeah.
so I don't get the point of it. I didn't like it. They could have cut out that whole chase scene as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
It was another Canto Blight as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. And then later on in the film, the trio gets together and they go to the
Another desert planet.
Another desert planet.
Might as well be Tatooine.
I don't know. How many desert planets are in Star Wars?
Well,
we
but
have
this
no
one's
idea.
got sinkholes. So.
It's gone, yeah, I guess. Anyways, they're looking for this wayfinder that's gonna get them onto Exegol. It's a fetch quest, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And they face some resistance from some stormtroopers. Apparently, they fly now. Little funny dialogue there. I kind of like that. We get to finally find out what Chewbacca is saying. But I don't know. I wasn't too keen on the little fetch quest thing. The dagger to me didn't make sense.
No.
And then it just moves
Because
on.
when was it made? Who made it? What? I mean, just now.
Why couldn't C-3PO translates Sith.
Well, I thought that was kind of interesting.
Really?
I mean, Sith is a banned language from
Yeah.
the Old Republic for good reason. So I thought that was kind of interesting, but the whole dagger and
It doesn't work.
the
for me.
whole special device
Yeah.
they need to find this place, and I mean, yeah, I could have done without all of that.
Yeah. And then from there we move on to one of my favorite characters that got introduced, Babu Freak.
Babu Freak.
I loved him. He was really funny. And he basically, short story, he just gets the information out of C-3PO. C-3PO reboots. Gets kind of introduced to everyone again. It was kind of funny.
I thought it was funny.
Poe tells him to move his metal ass.
Yeah.
Pretty funny.
The other side quest to go meet Kerry Russell's character.
Yeah, you're right.
That's where Babu Freak was.
That's where Babu Freak was.
Yeah. So, which ultimately ends up getting destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
When they introduced Kerry Russell, of course, a lot of us fans were hoping it was going to be Mary Jade. Turned out not to be. I don't know that she was a necessary character either. So
I don't think so.
Eventually, we get to a planet apparently in the Endor system.
Yeah.
Where we get to see the point of the dagger, which, I mean, so many plot
An
problems there.
unnecessary plot.
Yeah, but the lightsaber battle
Between
with Kylo,
well, there's that one before when she's on a
with
ship.
Dark Ray, by far the coolest lightsaber battles of this trilogy. Certainly not of the saga.
No.
I mean, they dropped the ball on lightsaber battles in the saga. But
They kind of went
was
back
pretty
to
cool.
the original series with lightsaber fights. Kind of slow, more powerful
yeah,
blows.
but even Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader had better fights.
Right, and I totally agree with that. But in that lightsaber battle, we see some new force powers, which we forgot to talk about.
Yeah, the whole bending the lightsaber thing.
Yeah,
I like that.
But force healing.
Force healing, which we've seen in video games.
We
I mean,
saw in the Jedi
that's nothing
Outcast
new
and
to fans of Jedi Outcast and
Jedi
Jedi Academy series.
Yep.
I mean, that's been a force ability forever. So I was glad that they brought that and made that canon.
I thought it was overused.
It was overused. Well, I don't know. I was happy with it.
Really?
Yeah, I was okay with it. Mostly what I was happy about with the lightsaber battle is Kylo clearly won.
I think that's been a thing in this whole sequel trilogy is Rey gets away with things, but it was always sort of clear that Kylo's more powerful.
Yeah, and it showed in this battle. I mean,
Yeah.
he had her beaten, and then she basically gets a cheap shot in on him while Leia's doing some
Who knows?
weird thing that they decided to kill Leia, I guess.
Yeah.
Bring her back, but
Killer.
kill her for reasons. I guess she somehow got in touch with her son. I don't know.
I don't know.
I wasn't happy
It makes
with
him
that.
hesitate. And
Wasn't
Rey gets
happy
a
with
cheap
that as a fan. I was really hoping that Leia would see the whole saga through, and you know, she deserved peace. I mean,
Right. But
you
then
know, even in the Legacy, or not Legacy, even in Legends, well, Leia kind of gets treated badly there. I mean, she has a couple of her sons die, and
Darkseid.
Disney decided to continue that, I guess, and kill her son in this movie and continue to treat her badly. Leia just doesn't get any chance to ever live peacefully. You know, at least in Legends, her and Han stayed together. But yeah, the reason to kill Leia in this
No.
film, I just didn't get.
No. But then from there we see force healing again. She healed that monster in that sand pit that they fell in that helped them escape after they
yeah.
grabbed the dagger.
Yeah,
But then
yeah, it was kind of overused.
yeah, she
I
forced.
guess I was to introduce it. I would have been fine with them just introducing force healing.
We
with-
see it in the Mandalorian, the episode before the movie
Yeah.
released.
Well, they
Baby
introduced
Yoda.
it there. They introduced it with the sandworm thing.
Yeah,
I would have been fine if they just did it for the first time on Kylo. I mean,
yeah,
I
exactly.
would have been happy with that.
But basically, Kylo has a come to Jesus moment. That's kind of where he moves away from the dark side. From there is
Because
Okay.
Han comes back, maybe
Han-
not as a Force ghost.
They said it was
I don't know
some
what he is.
kind of memory. It was in his imagination. It was kind of how it was explained in the movie.
Open to interpretation. I don't know.
Not something
I was okay with it.
It's not something I buy though. It was kind of forced, I think. Again,
I would have liked to have seen Luke talk to him in this movie.
yeah, exactly. I mean, his old master. I guess Luke, for whatever reason, I guess until the end of the movie, he was stuck on his little island. That's the only time we really see him besides the final scene. But yeah, I like that. I mean, the story arc of Kylo kind of comes full circle there. He sees the error of his ways after Rey takes off. She has the Wayfinder in his ship, which she doesn't use right away. Kind of leaves him to his own thoughts, I guess. And that's where he kind of comes back to the light.
I was happy with how his story arc turned out.
Yeah.
Again, he's a character I wish that hadn't died.
Right.
If it were me, I would have traded
Rey for
kind of places,
for
and
Rey.
that's not to say that I don't like where Rey's character ended up. I like Rey as a character a lot.
She was a
better
good
after this
character.
film. I would have liked Rey even more if she had been kind of the person at the end that makes the big sacrifice. Maybe you
Anakin
can swap
sacrifice
places.
right
She's
there.
the one that gets force pushed off the cliff. I don't know. But maybe Ben dies fighting Palpatine, but she brings him back. That would have been a more powerful ending for me.
Yeah.
It would have been a more interesting ending because after Kylo Ren or Ben Solo has done these horrible things, but then he is redeemed. How does he go forward after that? It would have been more interesting. I guess the big question now is, where does Star Wars go from here?
We're right back at episode 6.
We're right back at episode 6.
What happens to the Jedi? It kind of, to
Who's
me,
in charge of the galaxy now? Is it the New Republic? I mean,
because that's kind of one question I have is they're on Exegol, the big battle. I mean, I wasn't crazy about the whole Palpatine thing. That was another part of the movie that really seemed rushed. I think that was a common theme.
I would have been happy with a longer battle. And you're right, the whole movie was rushed.
Yeah, it was a
But it
common
had to
theme.
be.
Yeah, I think he was trying. JJ Abrams made an attempt to fix a whole trilogy in a 2-hour time span. And I mean, you're right. Had a lot of fan service, which we appreciate, but it was rushed. And I think that was the biggest downfall of the movie because I would have liked to see more Palpatine. Maybe see him bring out his lightsaber, which in my opinion is the coolest lightsaber in all Star Wars. I think that's the coolest looking Star Wars in Revenge of the Sith, where he uses the Force and it just snaps right in there, and it looks awesome. So I would have liked to see maybe a lightsaber battle. I wasn't crazy about the life essence.
Palpatine's force drain.
Yep.
Well,
it's another power that we saw in video games, so it's not something
it's
that was.
established.
It wasn't something that was crazy new. But I thought that was really cool, and I was expecting a big scene right there when you see Palpatine's fingers grow back and he gets the Sith eyes back, and it's like, oh dang, he's back. And 5 minutes later, he's gone.
Dead again.
He's gone. So I would have liked to see maybe a lightsaber battle. I kind of get that Rey and Ben they didn't have any life in them, I guess. Ben just kind of gets pulled up and flicked off a cliff.
Yeah.
Basically, and Palpatine has a great quote, I think, and
Yeah.
let this be the end of the Skywalkers.
And something that brings to mind is really the last 2 movies have kind of broken Star Wars kind of tradition, I guess, or kind of the beats that the movies go through. The last 2 movies haven't done this, but Star Wars movies kind of have built towards a big final lightsaber battle.
Big climactic battle.
Yeah, so I guess I didn't realize as I was watching it that
We were going through that moment.
yeah, that Kylo and Rey, that was going to be the last lightsaber battle of the saga.
Yeah.
There wasn't kind of the build up, and there wasn't in the Last Jedi.
There wasn't a lightsaber battle at all in the Last Jedi.
Well, unless, I mean, if you count the Luke Skywalker apparition, I mean, it kind of built towards a lightsaber battle there, I guess. So maybe you would count this the first one that kind of broke that tradition. I don't know.
I don't know.
So final thoughts on the movie. Final rating.
I would give it a 7. I would give it an 8, and it's purely for this reason. At the very end of the movie, Rey goes to Tatooine, goes to Uncle Owen's house, buries Luke and Leia's lightsabers. The lady comes behind and is like, there hasn't been anyone here in years. And what's your name? And she's Rey. Rey who? And she looks out, sees Ghost, Luke, and Leia, and says, Rey Skywalker. I'm not crazy about that.
I can live with it.
I would have been happy if she just said Palpatine. Honestly.
Well,
I like the idea of her just owning up to the name. I get
both sides of it.
You get both sides. She doesn't say it because, I mean, think of the downfalls that come with the name Palpatine. I mean,
sure.
The old lady probably would have had a heart attack right there if she said Rey Palpatine.
Well, maybe.
So, I don't know.
If she even knew who Palpatine was.
If
they're on some backwater planet,
right.
Of course.
But, I mean, even if she just said she doesn't have a last name, maybe she just is Rey.
She's just Rey. Which is how Rian Johnson apparently wanted it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well,
Her
maybe.
parents are nobody.
Yeah.
Apparently. What would you give it?
I'm about the same.
Yeah.
I think I lean towards an 8. But I kind of go back and forth depending how I look at it. And I know I've complained about a lot of things in the movie, and that's why if I looked at this purely as a film, a standalone film, say that this was the first Star Wars film we had ever seen, I would give it a low rating. I might even give it a 5 or a 6 because it has major pacing issues. There's so much exposition in the movie.
Yep.
I mean, you have to, we were talking after the film or the first time we saw it, that really you didn't even need to see The Last Jedi. You just need to know Snoke dies, Luke dies, and you could skip right over episode 8. So this film has so much exposition.
Yeah.
And pacing issues. It moves so quickly.
Yep.
So as a pure film, I don't think it's a great film.
Right.
As a Star Wars fan,
it's great.
I had a great time.
Yeah.
And the difference for me between this film and the last one is they both have problems.
Right.
They both have things that I don't like, I don't agree with, but there was just something about Rian Johnson's choices with what he did with Luke Skywalker. I just couldn't get past it. And the things that I don't like about this film, that Rey lives rather than Ben, or Palpatine kind of coming back out of nowhere, or the light speed skipping. I mean, I don't like those choices, but I can move past them. The dagger and, these side quests, getting the magic item that'll get you to the, final boss. I don't like that storyline, but I can live with it because I had a great time watching it. This felt like Star Wars, and so as a Star Wars fan, I give this an 8, maybe even a 9. I mean, we've been to see it twice. I want to go see it again.
Yeah.
I'm going to get the film the day it comes out. I'm going to watch it 150 times like I have the other ones.
And enjoy it every time.
Right. So what do you guys think about the movie? Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker. Leave a comment. Let us know what you thought. And as always, subscribe. And we'll catch you next time on Yeah, I'm 30.
I'm getting too old for this sort of thing.